This is a typical tire balancer that you're going to find in any motorcycle shop. On the back of the machine, this is where we turn the machine on and off. This is a very important feature because when an error code comes up on the machine, the only way to clear it is to shut the machine off. On the left side of the machine, this red button engages the motor. On the front of the machine, this black lever engages the motor to the spindle. When I lift the lever up and depress the red button, the motor will engage the spindle and it'll spin. When I push the lever down, that's the brake for the spindle. This is the spindle that'll hold on to the tire and rim assembly. These are the gas-charged shocks and locks to grab a hold of the tire and wheel assembly. On the right side of the machine, this black arm has a gauge on it so I can adjust the machine to how far the rim and tire assembly is away from the machine. Located on the top of the machine are all the collets you'll need when we balance a rim and tire assembly, along with two-sided tape and spacers to space out the rim and tire assembly from the machine. You'll find standard straight collets of all different sizes on the top of the machine, along with tapered collets and the nut to lock the assembly down to the spindle. On the top of the machine are where all the wheel weights are housed. That's the only thing that should go on the top of this machine. After turning on the machine, the LEDs will light up on the front of the machine. The buttons on the right of the machine are to set the distance the rim and tire assembly is away from the machine, to set the width of the rim assembly, and to set the diameter of the rim assembly. These arrow buttons next to A, B, and D will adjust them up and down. The buttons on the face of the machine, A, adjust how far the rim and tire assembly is away from the machine. B, adjust how wide the rim assembly is on the machine. And D, adjust the diameter of the rim assembly on the machine. The up and down arrows adjust these. The less than button on the machine tells us how close we balance the tire and rim assembly. The ALU button adjusts from a static balance to 3 dynamic balances on the rim and tire machine. The R button is the repeater button to display all the information that we put in the machine to double check. Before installing the rim and tire on the machine, we need to select the proper collet that will fit inside the bearing. The proper collet will have a small amount of play between the collet and the bearing. If I choose a collet that's too small, it won't fit properly into the bearing. We also have tapered cones that may be used on a bearing that doesn't have the proper size collet. Before installing the rim and tire on the machine, make sure the arms are open fully on the machine. Take one of the 2 collars, slide it onto the spindle for the proper size of your bearing. After you have one of the collets installed, you can take the rim and tire assembly, install it on the spindle. Install the second collet into the bearing. Install a proper amount of spacer on here and install the nut onto the spindle, hand tight. The nut that holds the wheel and tire assembly on the spindle has 2 flats on it. Never use a wrench on this. When installing the nut hand tight, sometimes it helps to hold on to the bar and hand tighten it. After you have the wheel and tire assembly on the machine and the nut tightened, close down the 2 levers so that the tire and wheel assembly is now a part of the machine. The first setting that needs to be done on the machine is the machine needs to be set to a static balance, ST. By depressing the ALU button, the LED will light up next to the ST. By continuing to press the ALU button, it will drop down into the 3 dynamic modes and off altogether. Make sure that ST, or static, is lit. The arm on the right side of the machine has a gauge on it. This tells the machine how far the rim is away from the machine. 10, 20, 30, 40, and so on. If the arm will not reach the side of the rim at its full extension will be 150, we need to use the plus 10 spacer. The plus 10 spacer is attached to the top of the arm and is run out till it contacts the rim. The plus 10 spacer is added to our measurement on the arm in an increment of 100. So 100 plus 105 is 205. I've measured this rim and tire assembly 205 away from the machine by moving the buttons up or moving the buttons down. I need to indicate 205. To set the B dimension, which is the width of the rim, we need to use this scale. By opening the scale, the pointer will indicate the width of the rim. These fingers on the scale need to touch the bead area of the rim. To read the gauge, we look at the pointer after it's attached on the rim. This rim is 6 inches wide. To put the information into the machine for B, again we press the up and down arrows, watching the LED change until I reach 6. The D dimension is indicated on the rim and tire. We're using a 17-inch rim and tire. To adjust again, I move the arrows up and down to indicate I have a 17-inch rim and tire. The replay button, if I depress it twice, will replay all the information that's in the machine. Always double check and make sure the information you put in is correct.